Inside the halls of Zhenyan Sect, the atmosphere was heavy and final. An elder, his voice echoing through the chamber, stood with authority as he pronounced judgment. Yi Chen, an outer disciple, had suffered the rupture of his dantian, an affliction that stripped him of the ability to cultivate. For this, the elder declared him expelled. From that moment forward, Yi Chen was forbidden from ever setting foot upon the mountains of Zhenyan Sect, not even by a single step. Yi Chen attempted to defend himself, insisting that the sect bore responsibility for his condition. But the elder cut him off coldly, branding him a piece of trash who dared to make excuses despite his worthlessness. Yi Chen struggled to accept this. After everything he had done for the sect, is this how he was going to be treated? 3 days earlier, Yi Chen had been seen darting through a dense forest, moving swiftly from branch to branch with a box clutched tightly in his grasp. A sharp object flew past, narrowly grazing his cheek. He halted immediately and shouted into the woods. From the shadows, a figure emerged, wearing a smile that did not reach his eyes, Lu Zhai from Qin Yun Sect. With a casual air, Lu Zhai dismissed any pretense of secrecy. He demanded the elixir, warning that if Yi Chen handed it over, there might still be a chance for his pathetic life to be spared. Yi Chen unsheathed his sword and swung it with force toward his opponent, refusing to yield. But the moment his blade cut through the air, Lu Zhai was no longer in sight. A silhouette flickered behind him. Before Yi Chen could fully react, a fan swept toward his neck. He twisted in time to lessen the blow, but a sharp sting marked a shallow wound. Lu Zhai's speed left little room for error, and the next strike could be fatal. Without pause, Lu Zhai launched into a rapid barrage of palm strikes. Each hit landed cleanly, forcing Yi Chen backward through sheer force. He dug his sword into the ground to stop himself, dragging a line through the earth before regaining his footing. Though battered, Yi Chen remained upright. The blows had left bruises and scrapes, but his internal organs remained untouched. It was clear his opponent had full control over the fight and was deliberately holding back. Yi Chen lashed out with his sword again and again, yet Lu Zhai evaded each strike with ease. With a casual motion, Lu Zhai swept his hand toward the blade, deflecting it. The impact tore the weapon from Yi Chen's grasp and sent it flying. No longer amused, Lu Zhai began to gather his strength. His kai surged, coiling around him before rushing toward Yi Chen. A concentrated finger strike followed, aimed directly at the abdomen. The force shattered Yi Chen's dantian on impact, sending blood from his mouth as pain surged through his body. Powerless and fading, Yi Chen collapsed. The battle had never been a challenge for Lu Zhai, he had merely toyed with him. As Yi Chen's vision dimmed, he saw Lu Zhai retrieve the box containing the elixir. The world around him faded as his eyes closed. Back in the present, the elder addressed Yi Chen, stating that the sect had nursed him back to health over the past 3 days. According to the elder, that act alone was more than sufficient repayment. Yi Chen referred to the man as Elder Wu and spoke of having grown up within the sect since childhood. Yet the coldness he now faced revealed the true depth of the elder's disregard. Turning his back, Yi Chen declared that from that day forward, he no longer belonged to Zhenyan Sect. As he descended the long staircase from the hall, whispers rose among the surrounding disciples. Murmurs spread, branding him as trash and useless. They understood what had happened. Yi Chen had been cast out. Some disciples watched in silence, conflicted. A few considered seeing him off out of respect, but others dismissed the idea, arguing that he was no longer a cultivator and thus no longer one of them. Among the crowd, Zhao Kang stepped forward, a sneer forming as he spotted him. With a mocking tone, he loudly called out, drawing attention to Yi Chen's presence. Yi Chen recognized him but continued walking without pause. Zhao Kang mocked him further, stepping closer with feigned concern and exaggerated pity. Then, with a sudden movement, Zhao Kang grabbed Yi Chen's shoulder, pulling close and jeering at him not to leave so easily. When Yi Chen responded with clear rejection, Zhao Kang's expression twisted into open contempt. He belittled Yi Chen, taunting him with the weight of his lost status. Spreading his legs, Zhao Kang blocked the path and shouted his demand. If Yi Chen wished to leave, he should crawl through his legs. He promised a reward of spirit stones, but the offer was clearly made to humiliate. Zhao Kang laughed and Yi Chen could only look at him in contempt. Onlookers murmured uneasily, one disciple voicing that perhaps Zhao Kang had gone too far. But Zhao Kang turned sharply, silencing them with a threat, and no one dared to challenge him further. Before Yi Chen could respond, movement behind him caught Zhao Kang's eye. A girl was approaching, Jai Ning Shuang. Her appearance drew the attention of the disciples, who quickly spread word of her presence. She was striking, her slender frame and expressive eyes drawing stares from all directions. Zhao Kang's demeanor shifted instantly. Gone was the cruelty, replaced by a performative grace. He moved toward Ning Shuang, attempting to present himself as someone of status. But she walked past him without hesitation, her gaze cold and disinterested. She stopped only when she reached Yi Chen. In silence, she looked at him. Yi Chen didn't speak. As she continued walking, she offered him a quiet word of farewell. Yi Chen took note of her expression as he passed her by. He remarked to himself that she had changed. She remained silent, her face unreadable. Before departing, Yi Chen spoke once more, wishing her well. He then left the sect grounds, carrying a small bundle, and entered the forest. Night fell. Beneath the moonlight, Yi Chen paused in the woods, alone with his thoughts. His eyes lifted to the sky as memories surfaced, moments spent in the sect. He remembered a time when Elder Wu had gently lifted him as a child, and the laughter of disciples who had once vied for the same affection. That warmth was now distant. His face darkened with sorrow, and as he stared at the moon, wondering what a home truly means, a sudden streak of light flashed across the sky, then another, and a third. Yi Chen's eyes followed their descent. Without hesitation, he moved swiftly in their direction, eager to witness their landing. A loud explosion rang out in the forest ahead. Light burst across the sky, and Yi Chen shielded his face. When it dimmed, he pushed through the brush to get a clearer view. Ahead, smoke rose from a patch of scorched earth. He stepped closer, eyes fixed on the glow. Deep within the forest, a golden flame burned steadily atop the scorched earth. Drawn by its glow, Yi Chen stepped forward. As he reached out, he felt an uncanny sense of kinship with the flame, both of them displaced, without a home. The flame rose gently from a cluster of scattered stones and floated toward him, settling upon his outstretched hand. Yi Chen studied it closely, impressed by its presence. He raised his other hand above it, and the flame responded, drifting upward and merging into his fingertip. A sensation stirred within him. Deep inside his body, the broken dantian began to shift. Where once it was shattered and lifeless, a swirling vortex of light took shape, forming a smooth, circular surface resembling water. For a brief moment, Yi Chen exhaled in astonishment. The impossible had occurred, his dantian had healed. But that moment was short-lived. A sudden sharp pain surged through him as beams of light impaled the newly formed core. He doubled over, clutching his abdomen as the force racked his body. When he opened his eyes again, their glow reflected the transformation occurring within. Above the restored dantian, a new space had appeared, a spiritual sea, vast and unknown. In the realm of cultivation, such a sea was said to reside beyond the limits of the human world, accessible only to those who reached the deep void stage. Light began to flow in from the forest, threads of energy streaming through the trees and gathering around Yi Chen. As the final traces of light spiraled around him, the golden flame within Yi Chen's abdomen absorbed them completely. The energy surged inward, and his body could no longer endure the strain. He collapsed onto the forest floor as darkness gave way to the soft light of dawn. By morning, he was lying on a bed within a sunlit room. A child sat nearby, whistling cheerfully at a table. When Yi Chen stirred awake, the boy turned to him with a smile, greeting him with surprise. Yi Chen asked where he was, and the boy explained that this was Mount Hang Sect. He recounted how, the night before, Yi Chen had been discovered unconscious at the base of the hill. His grandfather had found him and brought him back for care. Lying still, Yi Chen recalled the reality of his circumstances. In the Great Chu Kingdom, a single school divided into 3 dominant sects held influence, among them, the Poison Tyrant School in the north and in the south, Zhenyang Sect, Zhenyun Sect, and Hengyue Sect. Not long ago, he had been expelled from Zhenyang, and now, by a twist of fate, he had awakened in Hengyue, their rival. The boy seemed to sense his fatigue and promptly ran outside, announcing that he had something prepared for him to eat. Left alone, Yi Chen took the moment to reflect. The events of the previous night had not been a dream. The golden flame still resided within his body. He raised his hand and summoned it, its glow answering his call. He regarded it with resolve, declaring that it would one day aid him in his revenge. Outside, the boy called to him again, urging him to come eat. Yi Chen replied that he was on his way. Stepping out, he was greeted by the boy and his grandfather beside a modest table. The elder welcomed him with a smile, offering a simple meal and inviting him to help himself. Near the table stood a massive eagle. Its presence caught Yi Chen's attention, and he wondered whether it was a spirit beast. The boy announced the start of the meal, while the elder encouraged Yi Chen to eat, noting that he must be hungry. Yi Chen, mindful of the hospitality, tried to express his thanks. The elder brushed it off, saying it was merely an act of kindness toward someone in need. As Yi Chen took his seat, the eagle fixed him with a sharp stare, unsettling in its intensity. Noticing this, the boy playfully scolded the eagle and tossed it meat, immediately softening the beast's demeanor. Then, turning back to Yi Chen, the elder posed a question. He asked if Yi Chen was a martial artist and from which sect he hailed. Yi Chen answered with a trace of hesitation, claiming no ties to any sect or clan and identifying himself only as a loose cultivator. The elder regarded him with mild regret, remarking that it was unfortunate for someone in the prime of youth to remain without a sect. He advised that joining one would grant access to cultivation resources and remove the burden of uncertainty from the path ahead. Yi Chen agreed with the reasoning. Being a lone cultivator carried constant danger, while a sect offered at least some protection and regular supplies to aid cultivation. The elder then asked directly if he would be interested in becoming a disciple of Hengyue Sect. Yi Chen expressed interest, but inquired about the qualifications required for entry. With a smile, the elder assured him that it would not be an issue. He would personally prepare a letter of recommendation. Yi Chen thanked him in advance, and the elder replied warmly, calling their meeting a matter of fate. At that moment, the eagle by their side fixed its gaze sharply toward the gate. The wooden door burst open with a loud crash, and a man stepped through wearing a crooked, malicious smile. He took in the sight of the table and their meal, remarking on it with mocking ease. The boy's expression darkened. He demanded to know what Zhang Tao was doing there. Zhang Tao ignored the question, his tone turning harsh as he demanded that the elder hand over what he had come for or face the consequences. The elder replied that he did not possess what Zhang Tao sought, but the man advanced on him regardless. With a sudden motion, Zhang Tao overturned the table, his voice rising in a threat. The eagle launched itself at him in defense as the boy shouted, calling him a thief. The great bird hovered in front of Zhang Tao, but the intruder's hand lit with Kai. With an aggressive shout, he struck. The blow sent the eagle crashing to the ground, drawing a cry of alarm from the boy. As the child rushed to the injured beast, Zhang Tao fixed him with a cruel smile and taunted him, claiming to have techniques far worse than death. He again demanded what he had come for, hinting at another attack. Before his words could finish, a hand gripped his shoulder. Zhang Tao turned to find Yi Chen behind him, his expression cold and carrying an unmistakable edge. A fist connected squarely with his face. Reeling from the blow, Zhang Tao clutched at the fresh bruise, shouting his outrage. But before he could finish his threat, Yi Chen seized his arm and hoisted him upside down. With a single, decisive motion, he slammed Zhang Tao into the ground. From the side, the elder looked on in astonishment. Zhang Tao, a cultivator at the second stage of Kai condensation, had been defeated in a single exchange. Even if Yi Chen was a skilled fighter, the raw force behind the move was striking. Without further delay, Yi Chen dragged Zhang Tao to the gate and hurled him outside like refuse, warning him to better his conduct under the eyes of the heavens. That night, the elder expressed his gratitude for Yi Chen's actions. Yi Chen dismissed the thanks, saying he had only done what was necessary. The elder then revealed his own identity, an elder of Hangyue Sect who had been relegated to tending a small spirit garden due to a grave mistake. Zhang Tao, he admitted, was his disciple, and he blamed himself for failing to guide him properly. Yi Chen replied that entry into a sect and one's growth within it depended on personal ability, and that the fault lay with Zhang Tao alone. The boy added that Zhang Tao's goal had been to steal his grandfather's celestial skill book. Over the years, the elder had given away many things, and Zhang Tao had come repeatedly to take more, causing constant trouble for them both. Yi Chen was aware that the Hangyue sect guarded 3 sacred treasures, one of which was the celestial skill. Once bound to a cultivator, it could rapidly increase the bearer's true kai in a short span of time. Such a skill was rare and highly coveted, rarely seen beyond the sect's deepest vaults. Yet somehow, the elder he had met possessed it. On the following morning, the elder soon informed Yi Chen that the recommendation letter was complete, and he could make his way up the mountain the next day. He urged Yi Chen not to squander his talent and handed him a beginner's manual, advising that he read it during his spare time. Not long after, deep within the forest, Yi Chen sat in meditation, the golden flame within him active and steady. Rising from his seated posture, he paused briefly, then called forth the rushing lightning palm. Violent arcs of lightning surged from his palm in response. Exhaling, he steadied himself. He had successfully acquired the technique, a powerful thunder-based attack. Such a move placed great strain on the body. But with the true fire tempering his frame, his bones and tendons had grown resilient enough to withstand it. The Hangyue sect itself was vast, organized into 1 temple, 1 hall, 2 gardens, 3 peaks, and 8 pavilions. The Jifa Temple served as the place where elders were judged for their wrongdoings, while the Jai Lu Hall functioned for the sect's disciples. Additional details about these 3 peaks and 8 pavilions remain, but let's reserve their discovery for Yi Chen. Inside one of the sect's halls, Yi Chen presented the recommendation letter and introduced himself before the gathered elders, stating that it came from Senior Zhang. The elders exchanged surprised looks at the mention of the name, noting how unusual this was. Discussion arose over who should take Yi Chen as a disciple. One of the elders asked his age, and when Yi Chen replied that he was 16, the 3 elders abruptly excused themselves and left. The remaining elder tried to stop them, but was told that Yi Chen's cultivation was insufficient. With few options left, he proposed that Yi Chen join as an outer sect disciple and asked if he would accept. Yi Chen agreed, and the elder recorded his name onto a jade registration tablet. The elder then handed over the jade tablet, explaining that as an outer sect disciple, Yi Chen would not be granted access to inner sect techniques or treasures. The tablet would allow him to receive only a single bottle of elixir. Yi Chen accepted both the jade tablet and the elixir with thanks. The elder encouraged him to train diligently, telling him to return in 3 months for evaluation. He also directed Yi Chen to the weapon pavilion to select a spirit weapon. Following these instructions, Yi Chen went to the pavilion and spoke with its caretaker, Chow Tai Fuk. The man asked who he was, and Yi Chen introduced himself as a newly appointed outer sect student sent by Elder Kwang Yu. Recognizing the elder's name, Chow Tai Fuk granted him entry, but warned that outer disciples were restricted to the 1st floor and advised him not to wander to the 2nd. Inside the 1st floor, Yi Chen examined the available weapons. None impressed him. Everything he inspected was of low quality. Yi Chen searched the 1st floor of the weapon pavilion, moving from rack to rack. Some weapons felt far too light in his grip, while others proved entirely unsuitable. None met his needs, and the prospect of leaving empty-handed grew stronger with each passing moment. Just as he was about to give up, a surge of golden flame erupted from his abdomen. The flame extended outward, pulling his attention toward a corner of the building. Following its lead, he came upon a greatsword, its hilt bearing a distinct inscription. The carved characters spelled out, "Heaven's Breaker." Lifting the weapon, Yi Chen gauged its weight to be around 200 kilograms. Wielding it in battle could exhaust him to the point of collapse long before the enemy managed to strike him down. The weapon's design was peculiar. Its tip was unsharpened, making it useless for cutting. Yet, its mass made it formidable for smashing. With that in mind, he decided it would be his choice. When he emerged from the pavilion, the caretaker's eyes fell on the sword. The man remarked on Yi Chen's small frame and questioned why he had selected such an iron broadsword over the many others available. Yi Chen replied that it was no ordinary weapon and asked about its origin. The caretaker explained that the sword had been in the Celestial Weapon Pavilion since before his tenure began. It had likely rested there for over a century, but its history was unknown. He warned that its weight was abnormal and suggested Yi Chen take something lighter. Yi Chen refused, and the caretaker, calling him stubborn, allowed him to leave with it. As Yi Chen walked away, several disciples took notice. Recognizing him as the new outer sect recruit, their eyes also settled on the sword strapped to his back. One speculated that perhaps Yi Chen possessed more strength than he appeared to, while another remarked that his judgment might not be sound. Their attention shifted when one of them spotted figures descending through the sky, disciples of the Zhang Yang sect. Questions quickly arose about their presence, and another explained that in 3 months, the Zhang Yang sect, Qing Yun sect, and their own Heng Yue sect would be holding a competition. One disciple remarked on the beauty of a female among the arrivals, likening her to a goddess. Another suggested that the visitors were there to discuss the upcoming event. Yi Chen's gaze followed the flying disciples. Among them was someone he recognized, and the sight stirred his resolve for future revenge. High above on one of the flying swords, Jai Ning Shuang glanced downward, sensing a familiar aura. Her fellow disciple asked if something was amiss, but she answered that it was nothing. High atop a solitary mountain peak, Yi Chen sat in stillness, his sword planted upright before him. With blood drawn from his finger, he smeared it across the blade. The sword responded with a sudden glow, strange letters materializing within scroll-like lights that hovered in the air. These luminous formations then directed themselves toward Yi Chen's head. As the lights made contact, his own body began to radiate the same eerie glow. His hands flew to his head, his expression taut with concentration as if grappling with an overwhelming influx of knowledge. The realization struck him. This was the fierce, desolate shining body, a secret technique unveiled. He focused intently on the floating letters, recognizing the immense value of what he had uncovered. Throughout the process, his body continued to glow while the mysterious letters adhered to his skin, gradually seeping into him as he maintained his focus. When the last of the letters dissipated, Yi Chen examined his still glowing hand, acknowledging that relentless effort had yielded its reward. He then drank from a bottle, remarking that the jade elixir was refreshing while explaining that outer sect disciples could receive 1 bottle each month. Still, he noted that a single bottle would not suffice even for brushing his teeth, and determined that he would need to undertake quests in the inner sect to acquire more. Proceeding to the hunting hall, Yi Chen encountered a disciple who informed him that with his Kai condensation limited to the first stage, his talent was inadequate. Another disciple commented that Yi Chen must have been blind to select such a spirit artifact and suggested he was joking. As Yi Chen appeared contemplative, yet another disciple expressed the belief that Yi Chen had been dropped on his head as a child. Standing before the mission board, Yi Chen decided to select a task. Before he could retrieve the wooden tablet, a disciple named Zhao Long collided with him and seized the Blood Wolf mission. The generic-looking disciple regarded Yi Chen while holding the Blood Wolf tablet and inquired if Yi Chen had a problem with this action. 3 additional disciples positioned themselves behind Zhao Long, all 4 wearing mocking expressions. Yi Chen responded that if the senior wished to take it, then so it would be, causing the crimson-chinned disciple to appear angered despite maintaining a smile. Zhao Long grabbed Yi Chen by the shoulder, but Yi Chen immediately enveloped his body with violent energy, causing Zhao Long to retract his hand and state that he had underestimated Yi Chen. Yi Chen turned back and informed him that he displayed no hostility, questioning why they were acting antagonistically. Zhao Long chuckled at this before his anger ignited, declaring that Yi Chen had beaten his younger brother, yet dared claim no hostility. He emphasized that Yi Chen possessed audacity for assaulting the younger brother of Zhao Long, asserting that Yi Chen's life had forfeited its value. Yi Chen inquired if the brother was Zheang Tao, explaining that Zheang Tao had initiated the conflict and Yi Chen had been unwillingly drawn in. Inwardly, he noted Zhao Long's fifth stage Kai condensation, concluding he would not lose in a fight. With an ecstatically sadistic smile, Zhao Long cracked his hand and praised Yi Chen's response. His Kai then surged around his body as he menacingly expressed his enjoyment of those who feigned weakness. Observing disciples murmured among themselves, questioning if a fight would erupt. One remarked that with Yi Chen at first stage Kai condensation, he must have taken the wrong medicine to challenge Zhao Long. As the situation escalated, an elder intervened, demanding to know if they were causing a disturbance. He stressed that the mission pavilion was no place for such behavior, directing them to settle matters at the Fangg Yan stage if they wished to fight. Zhao Long warned Yi Chen that revenge would come eventually. Not backing down, Yi Chen responded with a smile that he would await their upcoming fight. He then returned his attention to the mission board, finally selecting the Fire Wolf mission. Moments later, under a full moon partially obscured by a rock mountain, he navigated rough terrain while ascending a cliff. Upon reaching the summit, he expressed satisfaction upon discovering a spirit grass. As Yi Chen plucked the flower, a mysterious creature materialized behind him. A wolf composed of blue flame lunged, but before contact, Yi Chen turned and stated it was the monster he was actually looking for. The wolf unleashed a concentrated beam, prompting Yi Chen to clutch his sword behind him. With a defiant shout, he unleashed a forceful slash that overpowered the wolf. After retrieving a small purple sphere from the wolf's corpse and inspecting it, he confirmed his mission's completion. Suddenly distracted, he noticed an attack directed at him and blocked with his arm. He shouted that this was neutral ground, demanding to know who dared launch a sneak attack. A silhouette emerged from behind, commending Yi Chen on his keen senses. An old man stepped forward, demanding that Yi Chen surrender everything valuable, promising to spare his life but threatening suffering otherwise. Clutching his injured arm, Yi Chen responded that he was merely a first-stage Kai condensation disciple, possessing no treasures. The elder chuckled, observing Yi Chen's apparent unwillingness to comply. Suddenly, Yi Chen sensed an unusual disturbance within his body. The elder unleashed a mysterious purple haze toward Yi Chen, wearing an evil smile while stating that the youth should not blame him. Yi Chen met this with a confident expression, indicating he held no grudge. Instantly, Yi Chen employed his rushing lightning palm, lunging at the elder. The elder appeared surprised, coughing up blood as Yi Chen's hand impaled him. In that moment, the elder realized Yi Chen had never been poisoned at all. Yi Chen confirmed that he had indeed been poisoned earlier, but as the elder collapsed lifelessly, he reflected on how poisoning had actually helped refine his golden flame. Inside a cave, Yi Chen observed his pouch absorbing the old man's possessions, remarking that the elder's belongings were rather impressive. He expressed satisfaction upon discovering spirit elixir and over 500 spirit stones. Additionally, he found poisons among the items, declaring he would certainly utilize them, noting with amusement that the elder had been remarkably well-equipped. His curiosity piqued by a book, Yi Chen examined it closely. Holding the volume, he noted its intriguing nature. "Bestial heart fury," he exclaimed, observing how desires manifested. As he read, he described the contents as magical. Yi Chen closed the book with a grin, acknowledging the acquisition of another treasure. He trained the technique, which consisted of movements derived from animals. Soar, evil wolf catches rabbit, tiger's paw strength, and great ape's agility. As the night deepened, Yi Chen exhaled, noting his exhaustion. His attention was drawn upward to a figure soaring through the sky, a void soul realm expert. For cultivators, those in the condensation stage or human origin stage required flying spirit beasts to ascend to the skies. Cultivators in the true Yang stage needed to ride flying swords. Once cultivation reached the spirit void stage, one could ride divine rainbows. Only when cultivation reached the sky void stage could one truly achieve flight without reliance on spirit beasts, flying swords, or divine rainbows. Yi Chen watched the figure, entranced by her beauty to such an extent that he failed to notice she appeared to be in pain. Not far behind her, 3 other flying individuals shouted that they had found her. Yi Chen wondered if she was being chased. He thought to himself that this situation had nothing to do with him and that he should not become involved, determining that the best course was to remove himself from the matter. To his surprise, the female cultivator landed not far behind him. Yi Chen looked at the woman with a conflicted expression as her pursuers shouted, demanding she reveal her hiding place. Their eyes met for a moment, and as the 3 pursuers arrived, Yi Chen advised her to remain concealed behind the nearby bush and refrain from making any noise. Yi Chen approached the 3 individuals and greeted them with caution, introducing himself as an ordinary mortal who was merely passing through. The person in the middle demanded to know if Yi Chen had seen anyone pass through, insisting he tell the truth. Yi Chen pointed in a direction and stammered that he thought they had gone that way. The man replied with a smile shared among his companions, warning Yi Chen not to lie or he would suffer a horrible death. His companion added that the woman was heavily injured and had been given an aphrodisiac, noting she would not be able to travel far. They urged haste, stating the first prince would be pleased if they returned with her. The female cultivator emerged from the bush as Yi Chen sighed in relief, thankful that the pursuers had departed. Unnoticed by Yi Chen, the woman stared mysteriously, her face flushed with color. Yi Chen then turned his attention to her as the female cultivator collapsed. Before she could fall completely, Yi Chen cautioned her to be careful and caught her. His heart raced as he became aware of their physical proximity. As the night deepened, Yi Chen returned to the cave. Inside, he placed his hand on the female's back, attempting to heal her. The woman reacted, her face reddening as she expressed sensations of heat. Yi Chen observed her awakening and addressed her as senior. The blushing woman turned to face him, again commenting on the heat. To Yi Chen's surprise, the female cultivator suddenly moved close to his chest. Before he could question her actions, she kissed him. The female quickly deduced that this behavior must result from an aphrodisiac, noting that even this minimal exposure could cause such effects. The woman was taken aback when Yi Chen suddenly pushed her away. However, with her superior cultivation, the female easily overpowered him and forced him to the ground. The experience unfolded with his mind resisting while his body responded affirmatively. Though not directly shown, the shadows and discarded clothing nearby indicated what transpired between them. The scene shifted to the Heng Sect spiritual herb garden, where Zhao Tao entered through the gate accompanied by 2 disciples. He demanded that the grandpa hand over Yi Chen, referring to him as a little imbecile. The grandpa, clutching his abdomen, responded that Yi Chen had already departed. Zhao Tao inquired about the divine incantation, instructing the grandpa to hand it over quickly. The grandpa claimed he possessed no divine incantations. Zhao Tao remarked that the grandpa would not shed tears until faced with death and commanded his companions to beat him mercilessly. Back in the beast forest among rocky mountains, a shout echoed with the declaration of intent to kill. Gripped by condensed kai around his neck, Yi Chen struggled to tell the female cultivator that she was being unreasonable, reminding her that she had been the one to throw herself onto him. The female cultivator lifted him higher, maintaining that this fact did not excuse his actions. Yi Chen called her a crazy woman, expressing regret that he had saved her. The female cultivator labeled him a pervert who deserved to die. Yi Chen pleaded with her to stop choking him as he gasped for air, while she insisted that this served him right. Before she could finish her words, the female cultivator sensed multiple people approaching, Haru in particular. She rushed to leave immediately, but told Yi Chen she would return to settle matters with him later. Yi Chen was thrown back into the cave, still tied up. He cursed upon hitting the ground, but then noticed something outside. Extending his senses, he detected that the female cultivator was being chased again and saw this as his chance to be rescued. The pursuing cultivators addressed the female cultivator as Chu Ling, asking why she continued to struggle pathetically. Chu Ling condensed into a flower-like form behind her and declared that those who plotted against her would pay the price. One of the cultivators told her she was overestimating herself, but his companion informed the group that several powerful auras were approaching them, people from the Hangyue sect. As the pursuing cultivators decided to leave, Chu Ling spat out blood, suggesting she had reached her limit. Fortunately, Chu Xuan of the Eternal Mountain sect had arrived. Chu Xuan noticed Chu Ling was wounded, but Chu Ling assured her elder sister that it was nothing to worry about. She then advised everyone to depart first, stating she still had something to do and that they should not follow her for this matter. Chu Ling frowned and, while blushing, referred to Yi Chen as a little rascal, thinking about how she would get back at him. She returned to the cave, but realized that Yi Chen had already run away. She shouted from the top of the cliff that he should not let her catch him. Then, remembering what had transpired between them, her cheeks flushed with a mixture of frustration. To her surprise, Chu Xuan found her and asked what she was doing. Chu Ling responded that it was nothing, but Chu Xuan inquired what she was looking for. Could it be that she had dropped a treasure nearby? Chu Ling responded with confusion, asking what treasure and claiming she was merely roaming around aimlessly. Chu Xuan did not believe her, but then remembered they should return home as Instructor Zhang was waiting for them. Deep within the forest, a hand emerged from a wolf corpse. Yi Chen climbed out and caught his breath, stating that he had almost lost his life. Returning to the herb garden, a cry echoed as someone shouted for them to cry more. Zhao Tao kicked the little kid, who was suspended by his hands, remarking on how hard the child's bones were. The grandpa, also tied up, called Zhao Tao a brute and offered himself as a target instead. Zhao Tao equipped a whip and accepted the challenge. He lashed the elder as the kid worriedly called out for his grandpa. Zhao Tao declared he would make the elder regret not handing over the celestial skill book. The punishing continued, the sound disturbing even the birds in the forest. One of Zhao Tao's companions warned him to be careful, as killing them would be a great sin with consequences they couldn't bear. Zhao Tao responded that the elder was trash and nobody would care anyway. His attention then shifted to the large eagle hung upside down on a tree branch. He remarked that they treated the bird as family and offered to cook it for their enjoyment. The grandpa protested angrily. Zhao Tao ordered his companions to butcher the bird for him. The two agreed, mentioning they had been at it all night and were quite hungry. The kid struggled against his ropes as the trio approached the eagle. Just then, Yi Chen arrived with a wolf corpse behind his back, informing the grandpa he had returned. He looked shocked upon witnessing the scene. He saw the elder, the grandson, and the eagle tied above the ground. Zhao Tao taunted him for daring to return home. Angered by what he saw, Yi Chen threatened Zhao Tao that no one could save him today. Zhao Tao directed a confident palm attack with a smile, mocking Yi Chen's bold words. To his surprise, Yi Chen rushed toward him, with Zhao Tao wondering if the boy was crazy for receiving his Yu Yang Jai Kai attack head-on. Upon reaching and striking Zhao Tao, Yi Chen declared he was courting death. Zhao Tao was sent flying, and his comrades rushed to help him. Zhao Tao ordered them to attack immediately. The two companions lunged at Yi Chen together, but he easily repelled them with his lightning palm technique. Without hesitation, Yi Chen rushed toward the elder and cut both ropes binding them. He acknowledged the situation as his fault, while the child cried for his weakened grandpa. The grandpa reassured Yi Chen not to blame himself. Yi Chen swore upon his name that from that day forward, nobody would harm them. Turning to the two lackeys, Yi Chen heard their stuttering apologies. He approached and stated that true remorse required consequences. Yi Chen kicked them in the abdomen, and one clutched his midsection, lamenting the loss of his cultivation. Yi Chen then advanced slowly toward Zhao Tao, who panicked and threatened him by invoking his master, Ji Hong of the Yi Yang sect's first seat. With finality, Yi Chen reiterated that no one could save Zhao Tao that day. He delivered a powerful kick to Zhao Tao's abdomen, lifting him off the ground and causing him to cough blood before crashing down. Yi Chen produced 3 needles, declaring he would return 1,000-fold the pain inflicted upon the elder and child. He threw the needles at Zhao Tao, poisonous silver needles personally tested by the old man he had encountered earlier, containing a blend of insect venoms that would cause endless agony without killing. Zhao Tao screamed in unbearable pain, then sobbed and bowed repeatedly, begging for mercy. He clutched Yi Chen's leg and revealed that Brother Zhao had sent him to retrieve the celestial skill book, claiming no personal involvement. Hearing this, Yi Chen strode to the gate and declared that Zhao Long would pay the price, even if it meant pursuing him beyond death. At Hengyue Sect's D peak, an elder's voice boomed as he lectured the assembled disciples, instructing them to practice the way of the Tao and pay respect to heaven and earth, declaring heaven and earth as the absolute truth. Elder Ge Hong of the Ti-Yang sect continued his lecture, explaining that cultivation is the foundation of Kai, and Kai is the root of man. Suddenly, a shout interrupted them, declaring that someone would wait for Zhao Long at the Fangg Yan stage. Hearing this, one disciple wondered who was challenging Brother Zhao. Another replied that it didn't matter who it was, since Brother Zhao was about to reach the 6th stage of Kai condensation and would receive more of the master's secrets than any other Hengyue sect disciple. They speculated that only the 3 main disciples would dare challenge him. Closing his eyes, Elder Ge Hong asked his disciple Long if he knew who was challenging him. Zhao Long bowed respectfully, responding with a confident smile that it was someone named Yi Chen, an outer disciple. The elder wondered aloud about Yi Chen, questioning if it was the same 16-year-old at the 1st stage of Kai condensation. Still bowing, Zhao Long asked if his master knew him. The elder recalled that Yi Chen had sought his guidance to become a D-Peak member, but he had rejected him, stating that D-Peak did not need trash. The listening disciples reacted, with one exclaiming that this explained the situation, and another suggesting that Yi Chen, having been rejected from D-Peak, was using this tactic to gain acceptance and guidance from the master. Elder Ge Hong gave permission for Zhao Long to proceed, advising that a little spar was acceptable but cautioning him not to be too harsh, as he did not want others to accuse D-Peak of being a bully. Not long after, at the Fangg Yan stage, people gathered as Yi Chen, a 1st-stage Kai condensation newcomer, challenged Zhao Long. Among the audience, one asked if the challenger was Yi Chen and inquired if he was a new disciple of Hengyue sect. Another responded that they had heard all 3 outer school masters had rejected him, leaving him as an outer disciple. A third speculated that Yi Chen was challenging Zhao Long, a disciple from one of the 3 schools, in order to be accepted. Moments later, someone shouted that Zhao Long had arrived, catching Yi Chen's attention. The other disciples immediately formed a line and bowed before him, offering greetings to Brother Zhao. Climbing the stage, Zhao Long addressed Yi Chen, stating that he hadn't wanted to see Yi Chen, but Yi Chen had come to see him regardless, questioning if Yi Chen thought he had lived too long. Yi Chen replied impatiently, commanding Zhao Long to get on the stage. One of Zhao Long's lackeys pointed at Yi Chen, demanding to know how he dared speak to Brother Zhao in such a manner. The lackey continued that senior Brother Zhao wouldn't need to personally handle beating Yi Chen up. But Zhao Long stopped him, saying with a mocking smile that they should wait, explaining that since junior brother Yi was the one challenging him, he should be the one to go so everyone could watch and learn a few tricks from him. With the sounds of swoosh, tap, both Yi Chen and Zhao Long entered the stage simultaneously. Before starting, Zhao Long boasted that D-Peak had always been fair and they couldn't break the Fangg Yan stage's rules. The watching female disciples shouted in admiration, expressing how handsome and cool Brother Zhao was. Yi Chen gripped his sword and challenged Zhao Long to come forward. Zhao Long smiled and raised a single finger, suggesting there was no need to rush. He explained that since ancient times, people had always bet when fighting in the Fangg Yan stage, proposing that he and junior brother Yi should also bet something. Curious, Yi Chen asked what Zhao Long wanted to bet. This crimson chin-looking dude turned around, placed his hand on his prominent chin, and proposed that the loser would serve the winner for the rest of his life, asking Yi Chen what he thought of the proposal. Some of the watching disciples expressed that the bet was too extreme. Another disciple remarked that betting the rest of one's life equated to selling oneself to Zhao Long, and that Yi Chen would suffer greatly. Yi Chen responded to Zhao Long with an intrigued smile, suggesting that if Brother Zhao wished to bet, they should wager something more significant. Zhao Long inquired about what Yi Chen proposed to bet. Yi Chen replied that they should bet their lives. Zhao Long questioned whether the boy understood the gravity of his words. Yi Chen countered by asking if Zhao Long was afraid. Zhao Long roared with laughter, declaring himself unafraid, and agreed to the deal with a confident smile. Immediately afterward, he charged at Yi Chen, stating that since Yi Chen sought death, he should not blame Zhao Long for the consequences, and threw a punch. Yi Chen blocked the punch with a resounding impact, admitting he had underestimated Zhao Long. Lightning surged as Yi Chen defended. Yi Chen then lunged with his sword, declaring that Zhao Long would regret his actions. As the battle continued, one onlooker expressed disbelief at the junior disciple's strength. Another noted that despite being only at the qi condensation first stage, Yi Chen withstood 3 moves from Brother Zhao Long, acknowledging his skill. A third observer reflected on the scarce condensed qi at the qi condensation first stage, challenging the logic of diverting true qi to control the heaven breaker. They emphasized that this would drain true qi reserves and hinder speed due to the weapon's heft, ultimately deeming Yi Chen's decision to brandish the heaven breaker as ill-advised. As the battle progressed, Zhao Long forced the heaven breaker from Yi Chen's grip. He then unleashed 3 slashes of Kai with a swift motion, his crimson chin prominently visible as he challenged Yi Chen to demonstrate his capabilities. Unperturbed, Yi Chen evaded the attack effortlessly using the bestial heart fury ape jump. Zhao Long perceived Yi Chen only as a blur. Sweating profusely, Zhao Long suddenly found Yi Chen appearing above him, kicking his face while commanding him to leave. Touching his bruised face, Zhao Long declared that Yi Chen was courting death. Zhao Long launched an attack, but Yi Chen dodged it. Yi Chen then countered with the Beast Fury Tiger's Paw technique, charging forward while declaring that Zhao Long was full of flaws. With swift movements, he rapidly closed the distance, explaining to Zhao Long that engaging in close combat would be his downfall. A single slash sent Zhao Long flying, shouting in pain as he was propelled through the air. The audience watched with mouths agape, marveling at the fighting style before them. The raw and primitive moves had defeated Zhao Long with apparent ease. Despite landing on his feet, Zhao Long paused, huffing with an expression of utter disbelief. He then resolved himself to attack, employing the rushing blue wolf fist technique. The audience watched in awe, exclaiming that they hadn't realized the first seat's techniques had already been passed down to Zhao Long. Yi Chen responded with his own rumbling technique, the lightning palm. The collision created a massive boom as their energies mixed explosively. Zhao Long skidded backward, shouting in disbelief. The blue wolf fist was a technique in D peak not taught to many, renowned for its brute force, and many outer disciples had been defeated by this single move alone. Yet now, a first-stage qi condensation outer disciple had broken this technique. Such humiliation was something Zhao Long could not accept. Shocked by this outcome, the other disciples wondered if Yi Chen was truly only at the first stage of qi condensation, remarking that the kid was simply too powerful. Following their clash, Yi Chen leaped with his sword, his body crackling with lightning as he declared this would be the end. As this happened, Zhao Long looked dumbfounded and could only defend with his flimsy-looking sword. Under the weight of Yi Chen's weapon, Zhao Long's sword predictably cracked, leaving him appearing as though suffering from hemorrhoids at that moment. The audience displayed expressions of utter disbelief, resembling your typical YouTube thumbnail with their agape mouths, as they exclaimed aloud that the 5th-stage qi condensation, Zhao Long had been defeated by a first-stage qi condensation outer disciple. With his sword hovering above Zhao Long's shoulder, Yi Chen declared that Zhao Long had lost, a statement others found impossible to accept. Yi Chen then continued, stating that Zhao Long's life belonged to him and announced his intention to take it immediately. This declaration shocked the onlookers. Some understood that Yi Chen would face severe consequences if he killed the D Peak's top disciple, while others questioned whether Yi Chen would truly kill someone in broad daylight. Zhao Long wore a smile resembling that of a leering pervert, though his profusely sweating face betrayed his facade. He declared his status as a D-peak disciple, questioning whether Yi Chen was certain about proceeding with the killing. Inwardly, Zhao Long reflected that the bet was merely a joke, doubting that a life would genuinely be handed over after a loss, and believing that connections ultimately mattered more than strength. The other D-peak disciples protested on behalf of their senior, warning that their teacher would not spare Yi Chen if he killed a senior disciple. Yi Chen responded that even if that were the case, Zhao Long's life belonged to him. At that moment, Ren Yang Peak Su Xin Yue emerged from the crowd, addressing Yi Chen with a request to treat the confrontation as sparring and mutual learning, urging him to spare Zhao Long. Yi Chen countered by questioning whether she would speak similarly had he been the defeated one. Su Xin responded that his killing intent was excessive and would obstruct his cultivation path. Yi Chen frowned at her words, inwardly reflecting that individuals of privileged status often viewed others with condescension, and their pity served merely as hypocrisy. He then inquired if she intended for him to release Zhao Long. Maintaining her composed tone, Su Xin expressed her wish for Yi Chen to pursue a righteous martial path. Yi Chen challenged her principles, asking whether she possessed a loved one and if she would still abstain from killing him should he torture that person day and night. This prompted Su Xin to pause and reevaluate her position. Yi Chen then informed her that she could withhold her insincere displays of compassion toward others. Appearing momentarily stunned, Su Xin began to speak, but was interrupted as Yi Chen summoned heavenly fire to his hand. He raised it, preparing to strike Zhao Long. Before the blow could descend, a rapid blur traversing from mountain to mountain landed upon the stage. The elder arrived swiftly, disturbing a few leaves in his descent. Elder Ge surveyed the scene, observing Zhao Long pinned beneath Yi Chen's heaven's breaker. While the other disciples greeted the elder, Zhao Long inwardly laughed to himself. He called out to his master, requesting assistance and informing that Yi Chen was attempting to kill him. Zhao Long's fellow disciples echoed his claim, stating that Yi Chen's bloodlust was excessive and that he should be severely punished. Ge, wearing a stern expression, commanded Yi Chen to put down his weapon. He acknowledged Yi Chen's strength and extended an invitation for Yi Chen to become his disciple. The other disciples couldn't believe this, with one remarking that this was the first time they had witnessed the elder personally invite a disciple. Among the crowds, someone exclaimed in disbelief, suggesting that Yi Chen might have orchestrated everything to gain Elder Gehong's attention and acceptance into D Yang Peak, implying he had finally achieved his goal. However, Yi Chen smiled and responded to the elder, expressing gratitude for the offer but declining interest in becoming a disciple of D Yang Peak. The audience reacted with shock, exclaiming that Ge was one of Heng Yue Sect Alliance's big 3 peak elders in the top spot. They noted that countless others had attempted to become his disciples, yet this first-stage Qi condensation practitioner had rejected such an offer. They emphasized this was the first time Ge had invited an outer disciple to join him, only to be rejected immediately. Clearly offended, Ge demanded to know what Yi Chen had said before projecting Kai toward Yi Chen. Yi Chen, bleeding from his mouth, reiterated that he did not wish to become a disciple of D Yang Peak. Inwardly reflecting that he had been ignored by the 3 masters during selection, Yi Chen considered how one of them now extended an offer after witnessing his potential. He resolved that he, Yi Chen, could not be easily swayed, believing a good horse would never graze on an old pasture. Ge laughed in contempt, expressing his approval of Yi Chen's defiance. The other disciples easily understood the implication, realizing Yi Chen's days were numbered and that Elder Ge would not let him off easily. They remarked that Yi Chen's future in the sect would become hell, while others expressed that Yi Chen was being absurd, questioning who he believed himself to be. Ge released his Kai, causing Yi Chen to shield himself, and commanded Yi Chen to release Zhao Long. Yi Chen responded by pointing a knife at Zhao Long's neck, stating he could not release the person before him. He explained that both had agreed to bet their lives before the fight, so Zhao Long must die that day. Ge, with Kai-infused palm, called Yi Chen an imbecile and accused him of courting death. Yi Chen replied that he was a person, not an animal. Inwardly, Yi Chen resolved that if Ge attempted to make a move, he would end Zhao Long's life. Ge asked if Yi Chen was threatening him, his Kai surrounding his body. Inwardly, Ge acknowledged Yi Chen's courage but warned him against believing he could challenge a first-seat elder so easily. Yi Chen reiterated that he had already stated their agreement to bet their lives, so Zhao Long must die that day. He offered that it was possible for him to spare Zhao Long, but it would depend on how much Ge was willing to pay. Yi Chen expressed willingness to step back, but threatened that if Ge insisted on killing him, both would die there. He then pressed his knife closer to Zhao Long's neck, causing Zhao Long to call for help from his master. Inwardly, Yi Chen believed that if Ge wanted to save Dai Yang Peak's first seat's face, he could spare Zhao Long's life, but he could not release him without compensation. Yi Chen asked the elder what he thought of this proposition. Yi Chen continued, reminding Ge they were at the Fangg Yan stage with many people present. He questioned whether Ge still wanted to kill him in front of so many witnesses. Yi Chen pointed out that, as a first-seat elder, killing an insignificant outer disciple like him would risk tarnishing Ge reputation. He urged Ge to consider his disciple Zhao Long and the resources spent training him, noting it would be a waste if Zhao Long were to die alongside him. Ge offered Yi Chen a final chance, asking if he understood what he was attempting to do. Yi Chen confirmed his understanding but refused to yield. Ge burst forward from his position and advanced toward them, declaring he would help Yi Chen release his grip. He walked menacingly, his Kai overwhelming the area, but before he could proceed further, a sudden voice from an unseen location intervened. The voice accused Ge of considering killing an outer disciple as a crime, questioning if he intended to break the sect's laws. Ge responded, addressing the voice as Dao Jai, explaining that Yi Chen wanted to kill his disciple. He asked if Dao Jai expected him to stand by while his disciple died before his eyes, or if he should ignore Yi Chen's crimes. The voice laughed, denying any cover for Yi Chen. It pointed out that both had agreed to bet their lives on the Fangg Yan stage, questioning how Ge could claim Yi Chen wanted to kill his disciple. The voice asked how it was shielding Yi Chen, noting that Yi Chen had already backed down and that Ge could save his disciple with sincerity. It questioned why killing was necessary, suggesting that if one loses, they should lose with dignity. The voice accused Ge of being unable to afford losing, thus resorting to killing, and asked if he thought the voice was blind. Ge was stumped and could only respond with "you" before falling silent. He then turned to Yi Chen, retrieved something from his sleeve, and threw it at him with force, calling it sincerity. Yi Chen, appearing in pain, blocked the object with his Heaven's Breaker. He denounced the action as sinister and cunning as Ge departed with his disciple, warning that Yi Chen would pay dearly for his actions. Yi Chen smiled, expressing that he was waiting. At Tianyang Peak, disciples gossiped about Zhao Long nearly being killed by Yi Chen's sword. They continued discussing how Dai Yang Peak's first-seat elder became so enraged he almost killed Yi Chen on the spot. Chow Tai Fuk listened to their conversation. Similarly, at Renyang Peak, Su Xin informed his master about the incident, surprising the elder that Zhao Long had lost to Yi Chen. At Dai Yang Peak, Ge shouted that everyone was trash. Zhao Long knelt as Ge continued, accusing them of ruining Dai Yang Peak's reputation. Deep within the jungle, Yi Chen sat examining Ge pouch, marveling at the 500 spirit stones inside. He realized Ge must be a significant figure. In the outer gate of Hengyu Sect, each disciple received only 20 spirit stones monthly, making this amount substantial wealth for Yi Chen. Inwardly, Yi Chen understood that Elder Ge would seek revenge, acknowledging the coming days would not be easy. Returning to the spiritual herb garden, the little boy expressed excitement at seeing so much meat. Yi Chen and the elder cooked, while the boy told the big eagle it could have a full meal that day. As they cooked, the elder began speaking to Yi Chen about the day's events, but was interrupted when Yi Chen assured him he was fine. The elder responded that if Yi Chen was fine, that was good. Inwardly, the elder reflected that he never expected an unrelated man he had once saved to stand up for him, an old man like himself. The elder's gaze drifted into contemplation, recalling how Yi Chen had challenged Gehang's authority without hesitation. He remembered the precise moment of his removal as sect elder due to an unforgivable crime, an event that resulted in the destruction of his cultivation and demotion to tending the little spiritual garden. Since his relegation to the hill, his circumstances had grown increasingly miserable. Previously, people had looked up to him, but now he was looked down upon by senior brothers from his past. Worse still, Zhao Tong, his former disciple, and other younger disciples frequently created trouble for him. Yet as he observed Yi Chen and his grandson, the elder reflected that compared to those senior brothers and disrespectful younger disciples who deceived their masters and dishonored their ancestors, Yi Chen was truly different. Amid this light-hearted atmosphere, Yi Chen noticed Su Xin approaching in the garden. Yi Chen inquired about her purpose. Su Xin remained silent initially, then regarded him with a belittling gaze as she announced that her master invited him to Rinyang Peak. She produced a yellow card, informing him that if he agreed, he could come to Rinyang Peak the following day. Su Xin tossed the card toward Yi Chen, who was eating. Yi Chen caught it deftly with his chopsticks, avoiding contact with his bare hands while remarking on invitations from Rinyang Peak. Then, with a stern expression, he expressed being flattered by the offer, not even hiding the sarcasm in his voice. As Su Xin turned to leave, she stated she had delivered the message and he could do as he wished. Before departing, she paused and looked back, warning him not to consider himself invincible after defeating Zhao Long. She emphasized that Hengyu sect could easily destroy him and that many powerful people existed within it. She cautioned that excessive aggression would prevent his success. Yi Chen appeared indifferent to her words, but the elder advised him that Rinyang Peak was one of the 3 main peaks of the Outer Gate's outer peaks, and suggested he accept the invitation. The elder advised Yi Chen not to let his future slip away, urging him to bear with the situation. Yi Chen acknowledged the elder's words, stating he understood. Both Yi Chen and the elder then noticed another person approaching. Tianyang Peak's first closed-door disciple, Yuan Wei, inquired if Yi Chen was the one who defeated Zhao Long. Yi Chen questioned why the senior brother was visiting so late at night. Yuan Wei responded dismissively, explaining it was merely to deliver a message from his master, who invited Yi Chen to become a disciple of Tianyang Peak. Yi Chen replied with equal dismissiveness, affirming the invitation. Before departing, Yuan Wei cautioned Yi Chen against failing to appreciate kindness, noting he had already recklessly offended Diang Peak. Yi Chen watched Yuan Wei leave, reflecting internally on the irony of his situation. No one had wanted to accept him 2 days prior, yet now everyone was suddenly recruiting him. Yuan Wei turned back, declaring that in the eyes of Tianyang Peak, Yi Chen was nothing. Yi Chen set down his plate. The elder looked at him, about to speak, but Yi Chen anticipated his words, explaining that while he might have sought backup, the recruits clearly looked down on him. He questioned whether joining them would invite trouble. With a dismissive attitude, Yi Chen stated he had seen through the sect's nature, a sinister world where strength commanded respect. Though merely an outer disciple, he preferred not to join the 3 main peaks. Instead, he committed to his own path, doing his best without making himself suffer. Witnessing his defiance, the elder supported him, emphasizing that the teachings of the older generation would be remembered by the younger generation. The sun set behind the rock mountain as lights swirled around Yi Chen, who meditated above a huge black rock. Passing disciples noticed him and remarked that he had become famous after his first battle, but his days would not become easier. They continued discussing that Gehang would not easily spare him, with one mentioning hearing that Gehang had allowed his direct disciples to leave their closed-door training early, threatening to beat Yi Chen. Another expressed anticipation for the coming confrontation. Hearing their conversation, Yi Chen questioned internally about direct disciples. He stood up, resolving to hurry and improve his strength. Yi Chen then visited Wanbao Pavilion, a shop of Hengyi sect that sold various items such as spiritual grass and other spiritual materials useful for cultivators. While looking inside, he recalled that in the previous Zhenyang sect, there had been similar martial arts shops with booming business. He wondered aloud whether this Wanbao Pavilion of Hengyue sect contained any treasures. Observing the bald shopkeeper, Yi Chen decided to enter. He bowed and greeted the elder, who responded with acknowledgement, inviting him to browse freely. Before Yi Chen could leave, the elder advised him against stealing anything. Yi Chen assured the elder that he would not dare to do so. Looking at the displayed items, Yi Chen expressed admiration for their extraordinary nature. His attention was then captured by something specific, causing him to pause. Yi Chen identified the item as a fire lotus. Upon examining the price tag of 500 spirit stones, his expression turned weary as he considered his total of only 1,000 spirit stones. Yi Chen then moved energetically between shelves, examining various types of spiritual herbs. He reflected that consuming and refining these spirit grasses would significantly increase his cultivation level. However, as he observed the products, his expression shifted to concern at their prices. He lamented his financial limitations, recognizing he couldn't afford them. Moving to the Xuan level cultivation skill area, Yi Chen stopped at the Spirit Jade Ancient Scrolls. He examined one scroll, recognizing it as an ancient refining method for Spirit Jade liquid, and expressed surprise that Wanbao Pavilion sold such items. The shopkeeper interjected, asking if Yi Chen was interested in the Spirit Jade Ancient Scroll. The keeper offered to sell it for 20 spirit stones. Yi Chen turned back with doubt, questioning why it was so inexpensive. He approached the shopkeeper and expressed skepticism about the authenticity, noting Spirit Jade liquid's preciousness compared to the low price. The elder quickly assured him it was genuine, explaining the scroll's high value was offset by its uselessness to ordinary cultivators. Yi Chen inquired about the reason. The elder responded nonchalantly that refining Spirit Jade liquid required flames bred from heaven and earth, at minimum needing earth fire. Since ordinary cultivators lacked earth fire, the scroll was useless to them. He added that Hengyu Sect possessed only one earth fire, sealed in the Spirit Pill Pavilion and treasured by immortal Su Fu, whose pavilion generated more profit than Wanbao Pavilion. Knowing he possessed something better than an earth fire, Yi Chen smiled and tossed his coins to the elder, deciding to purchase the Spirit Jade Ancient Scroll. As he left the pavilion, Yi Chen reflected inwardly with satisfaction that if earth fire could refine Spirit Jade liquid, his stronger true fire would certainly suffice. He concluded that by carefully comprehending the refining method, he would definitely be able to refine the Spirit Jade liquid. Yi Chen was just about to leave the Wanbao Pavilion in high spirits when his true fire unexpectedly extended from his body again, indicating another treasure. Following the extended flame with a broad smile, he chuckled softly, noting that the treasure it detected must be extraordinary. The true fire guided him to a mysterious gourd. Yi Chen picked up the gourd and smiled, acknowledging it as the source. He peered inside, observing that it appeared to contain nothing special. He wondered if the true fire had reacted due to the gourd's large internal space, affirming his trust in the flame's guidance. He proceeded to the shopkeeper and expressed shock at the price of 1,300 spirit stones, requesting a discount since he only possessed 1,100. The shopkeeper countered that the remaining 200 could be covered with other items, questioning whether Yi Chen truly desired the gourd. Ultimately, Yi Chen left the shop looking dejected, lamenting his depleted funds. The shopkeeper, meanwhile, reflected inwardly on his substantial profit. 1,100 spirit stones, plus a bottle of bloodthirsty pills from the Bloodthirsty Palace. In a secluded spot where a bird perched on a tree, Yi Chen dropped a droplet of blood onto the gourd, affectionately urging it to provide a secret realm or technique to compensate for his financial sacrifice. Moments later, the bird startled and fled as Yi Chen shouted about finding nothing inside, crying out about the loss of his spirit stones, bloodthirsty pills, and entire fortune. With tearful eyes fixed on the Spirit Jade Ancient Scroll he just purchased, Yi Chen placed his hopes in it to recover his losses. As sunset gave way to night, he reflected that refining spiritual jade liquid wasn't overly complicated, requiring only about a dozen types of spiritual grass. Moving swiftly through the forest canopy, Yi Chen traveled between branches, collecting various spiritual grasses with practiced precision. Upon securing the final snow jade orchid, he landed gracefully on the forest floor, momentarily admiring his luck. His satisfaction vanished when a voice suddenly cut through the night, claiming the orchid belonged to her. Su Xin emerged with an air of superiority, demanding Yi Chen surrender the snow jade orchid. Remaining grounded, Yi Chen calmly asserted his claim to the herb and suggested she find her own. Enraged, Su Xin charged forward, calling him an ungrateful bastard. Yi Chen's expression shifted to annoyance as he questioned whether this represented the true extent of her righteousness, noting she now resorted to stealing herbs. Their attacks met with a resounding impact as Su Xin's palm collided with Yi Chen's fist, forcing her back 2 steps. Yi Chen's surprise was evident when Su Xin drew her sword with a dismissive snort. She lunged forward, unleashing the clear wind chanting technique, while Yi Chen firmly gripped his Heaven's Breaker hilt, preparing to defend himself. He hadn't anticipated she would employ a Xuan skill merely for some spirit grass. With practiced movement, Yi Chen raised his weapon, successfully blocking her advancing strike. Yi Chen's expression grew more serious as his eyes locked onto Su Xin. She rushed toward him, her words sharp as she accused him of killing people too brutally, warning that such acts would hinder his cultivation. He immediately retorted, condemning her for killing fellow disciples over nothing more than a spiritual grass. His voice carried further, demanding to know whether it was his killing intent that was excessive or hers. Su Xin faltered under his rebuttal. Exposed for her hypocrisy, she could only force out a single word in frustration. At that very moment, Yi Chen shifted, catching sight of sudden movement at his side. A strike came rushing toward him. He raised his sword to block, but the power pressing against him revealed itself to be from a cultivator of the Foundation establishment stage. Even though his blade intercepted the attack, the impact drove pain through his body. When he steadied himself, the spirit herb was already in the hand of a newcomer. The man declared boldly that Yi Chen had a lot of nerve, accusing him of daring to move against people of Rinyang Peak. Without pause, the newcomer launched another attack, this time landing the blow directly on Yi Chen. The force knocked him back, blood spilling at the corner of his mouth as he clutched his chest. He forced out a bitter word of condemnation, branding the attack despicable. The newcomer only answered with a mocking laugh. Su Xin's tone shifted at once, calling out to the man as brother Chi Hao. Chi Hao asked her if she was all right, and she quickly assured him that she was fine. Both of them turned their attention fully to Yi Chen. Su Xin identified him by name, and Chi Hao remarked with amused recognition that this was the new outer disciple of the Hengyu sect. Still wounded but standing firm, Yi Chen declared that someone of the Foundation establishment realm had actually chosen to launch a sneak attack. Chi Hao dismissed the protest with disdain, saying that even if Yi Chen had defeated Zhao Long, it did not make him invincible. In Chi Hao's eyes, Yi Chen was still weak and frail. He insisted that Rinyang Peak had already given him face, but Yi Chen had not shown the willingness to accommodate them, and he called it a shame. Though his body remained weakened, Yi Chen held his composure and declared with determination that the sneak attack of this day would not be forgotten. Chi Hao waved the spirit herb in his hand with deliberate mockery, replying that he would wait for Yi Chen to seek revenge. Turning to Su Xin, he then offered the herb to her with an air of flirtation. She accepted it with a smile and thanked him warmly. Side by side, the two prepared to leave. Chi Hao declared that they should return to Rinyang Peak, and Su Xin gave her assent. Left alone, Yi Chen wiped the blood from his mouth with contempt. He stated coldly that he had already written down this debt and promised that the day would come when it would be repaid.